And in moments from now, French President Emmanuel Macron will be meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He's on a 3-day official visit to India. Macron, who's in Mumbai, is on his 4th visit to India. He's scheduled to meet the Prime Minister for a high-level bilateral meeting.
Indeed, and in fact, earlier today, the French president was also seen enjoying a morning jog at the Marine Drive in Mumbai. He, along with his wife, also visited the memorial of 2611 victims. He paid homage to the victims. Remember, there were 2 French nationals who lost their lives in that horrific terror attack that took place on the 26th of November in 2008.
Now, let's just tell you what's on the agenda when it comes to this important meeting, this bilateral meeting between Prime Minister of India and President Macron. Defense and artificial intelligence are expected to be key focus areas. Remember, you'll also have the French president in the capital tomorrow to be a part of India's AI summit that India is hosting. Talks will center around artificial intelligence, cooperation, strengthening defense ties, boosting trade and investment, enhancing counter-terrorism coordination and expanding healthcare collaboration.
Now, this visit actually is aimed at deepening the India-France strategic partnership, giving fresh momentum to cooperation across critical sectors. And in fact, viewers, it's very important to note that India, in fact, signed its strategic partnership first with France and then with 29 other countries later. So this is a partnership, a strategic partnership that goes all the way back till 1998 and gets a fresh impetus and a fresh momentum today. And in fact, let's rope in Vishnu Som, my colleague, who's getting us all those details of that big Modi-Macron meeting that is likely to start soon. We also have Aditya Rajpal as well as Saurav Gupta, crack line of reporters right here, Vedika, with us. But let's go to Vishnu first. Vishnu, all eyes now on that extremely important meeting between Modi and Macron that is likely to take place in the next 15-odd minutes.
No, it's an absolutely critical meeting between the French President and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This is taking place in Mumbai. President Macron arrived very late last night in Mumbai. He's got other important responsibilities and tasks in Mumbai before he comes here to New Delhi tomorrow for the AI Impact Summit at the Bharat Mandapam, where Aditya and I are reporting from. There will be a joint press statement which comes out today as well, which sort of defines the important aspects of the bilateral relationship between both sides. India and France have a deep strategic relationship. The word strategic is often seen to be associated only with defense matters. That's not the case. India and France have a very deep technology sharing arrangement, very deep partnership in several other areas, in cultural areas as well, and indeed in the defense area. We are democracies, we have common concerns, shared values. And in that sense, this relationship is one of the most important that India has with any other partner nation.
All right, Aditya Rajkol also live with us. Aditya, it's going to be an action-packed few days for the French president while he is here. What is going to be the agenda for this bilateral meeting? What will the focus be on?
Well, certainly, Vedika, it's a packed schedule for the French President Macron, who is on a 3-day visit to India. Of course, the showstopper really in many ways would be the AI summit, where we are standing at the Bharat Mandapam in the national capital. But apart from that, we are also picking up a hectic schedule in Mumbai, where there's a CEO's forum. People who are associated with innovation and technology would be meeting the French president. He would be putting the case for investment in France and deeper collaboration between India and France as well. He's also meeting between the Bollywood icons and some of the producers and actors who would be meeting the French president. Again, he'd be building a case for France to be utilized by the Bollywood and the Indian film industry for various shoots that take place, iconic shoots that take place in Europe. Apart from that, in Delhi, when he arrives here, he would obviously meet Prime Minister Modi at the AI summit. But apart from that, Vishnu gave you a glimpse of the bilateral that takes place at the Raj Bhavan in Mumbai and the joint statement that's expected from innovation to AI to defense and the people-to-people contact between these countries. But here in Delhi, apart from the AI summit, the big photo op that is expected tomorrow evening at the gala dinner, we'll also have the main inauguration that takes place on the 19th. And on the sidelines, there's expectation of an AI agreement on health, which will be signed at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, where the French president would be visiting. The French Minister for Armed Forces is also visiting Bengaluru, where a critical agreement could also be signed between these countries. So, in all, a packed schedule. We are reporting from the AI summit, where the French president would be arriving tomorrow, and together with his friend Prime Minister Modi, they will be inaugurating the AI summit.
All right. In fact, as both Vishnu and Aditya are pointing out, that defense is in fact a very critical component of the India-France partnership. You're also going to have Defense Minister Rajnath Singh meeting his French counterpart today in Bengaluru. And of course, we're going to have more details in terms of what really are the defense partnership and specific purchases that are lined up. First, let's play out this soundbite of Randhir Jaiswal, India's official spokesperson, and then we take this story forward in terms of what this relationship goes from here on, the key milestones it has achieved, and more importantly, what does the Modi-Macron magic really entail going forward. But first up, Randhir Jaiswal.
There are two aspects to his visit to India this time. One, he will be holding bilateral talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi later this afternoon here in Mumbai. And thereafter, he travels to Delhi to attend the AI Impact Summit. As you know, there's so much that is happening between India and France, two strategic partners in the fields of digital technology, in the fields of innovation, student mobility, culture, defense, security, green pathways, and a lot more. All these issues will come up for discussion when the two leaders meet this afternoon. Thereafter, we'll have the celebration of India-France collaboration in the field of innovation.
Let me introduce our guests who join us on the panel this afternoon. We have Air Marshal Sanjeev Kapoor, former Director General Air Force, Commandant National Defence, joining us live. We also have Dr. Brahma Chalani, Strategic Affairs Expert, joining us, and Dipanshu Mohan, Professor and Dean, O.P. Jindal Global University, and Visiting Professor, LSE. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us here on the show this afternoon. We will also have Vishnu and Aditya during our conversations with you. We will go live to them. But Air Marshal, I want to start with you, Air Marshal Kapoor. Defence cooperation remains a cornerstone when it comes to this relationship between India and France, especially the highlight being the acquisition of Rafales that is going to be the highlight of this meeting as well, at a time when a framework is expected within the next few days or hours, in fact.
To you and the fellow panelists and the viewers. See, India and France share a fantastic relationship, especially in the defense sector. And with the Horizon 2047 being signed as the flagship project, which is seeing ahead by 20 to 21 years from now, is indicative of the thick. Vishnu has been with me in a couple of air exercises. We've been to France and US. And when you go there, you realize how thick the friendship is when you go and operate there. The one-to-one, the person-to-person, the human-to-human contact when you meet people there is something which we should be proud of. The history in aviation goes back to the 50s. In the 1950s, around mid-50s, we got 100 of those Tufanis from France. Thereafter, around 1957, we got 100 of Mistiers, which did a wonderful job during 1965 war. Along with it, we had, Aleuts, helicopters, Elise, the naval aircraft on the carriers. We had Jaguars, we had Mirage 2000s, and then the Rafale. So the France aviation interface has been on from mid-50s with India. Now, especially coming to your question of Rafale, we did do the government-to-government deal in 2016, and we got 36 Rafales. We have already signed the contract for 26 Rafale M, which is the naval version. And for your viewers, it is 95% similar to IF variant. But that is F3R. Now these 114, which India is looking to buy, would be a combination of F4s and F5s. Now these are the advanced versions and will take us closer to our own AMCA and the that is a fifth generation project. Okay. So the Indian industry is already manufacturing the fuselages. Not only for Rafale, we have been manufacturing fuselage for Apaches, for Airbus, for C-130s, for Lockheed Martin, for F-16. India has been manufacturing fuselage for quite a few years. So the final assembly line outside France, which is the only existing one, which is producing 2 to 3 aeroplanes per month, which they need to scale it up. So they are looking at India, where the Safran setup is already there, the fuselage is being manufactured, and as the theory so goes around Nagpur, they will set up a final assembly line, the first outside France. So this will, rejuvenate our aviation sector, the MSMEs, the industries, total package. Yeah.
All right, so that's important. That is one aspect. Also the indigenous defense manufacturing gets a major push, and we're going to come to that in a bit. But just to, put out some facts for our viewers to understand, when you talk about the India-France relationship and you talk about defense, why it is such a critical component of the bilateral partnership, something that Vishnu alluded to when he gave us that, blowdown in terms of the bilateral ties. In the last, from 2020 to 2024, 28% of French arm exports have come to India, and that figure for the EU states actually stand at 15%. So that gives you a sense of why this is now such an important partnership. Also, in terms of overall supply of arms, close to about 32% of India's arm inputs come from France. These are broad numbers, of course. There are details, but that's really where the trend line goes, which is why defense is so important. Brahma Chirali, let me now bring you on the other aspect of this partnership, and then we go back to Vishnu for more as well, which is that, defense being an important part of this also comes at a time when there are great geopolitical headwinds, geopolitical developments that are taking place both for EU and for India. We all, of course, exist in Trump land with enough and more uncertainties. Walk us through the big highlights from a geopolitical messaging point of view for Emmanuel Macron's 4th visit to India.
Both France and India are trying to build an alternative to the US-China binary. Both are trying to make supply chains resilient by ensuring that they are not dependent either on the US or on China. Both India and France are emphasizing a multipolar Asia.
We're going to fix that audio in just a bit. But Professor Mohan, would you like to take that question, sir?
Yeah, thank you first of all for having me here. I think it's a very critical engagement for 2 reasons. One is the context of the American realignment in trade under a Donald Trump presidency, which has worried US allies.
Yes.
Has made Europe to consider economic security as its key area for realignment strategy, apart from boosting partnerships in defense, away from, of course, the US-China binary that is being spoken of. I do feel for India, there is a realignment required, not much so on the security front. India, France does a lot of defense, also on goods around security, where it's nuclear reactors, mineral fuels, oils. There's a lot of trade that already happens. But where India needs its sort of new framework for economic and trade cooperation, anchored within a deeper partnership with the European Union, to the recent FTA being spoken of, I think has reinvigorated new energy in this relationship. You would imagine beyond defense, a larger area of trade and technological collaboration. The AI summit is right here. But where I think we need to look at the possibility of this relationship be very critical is to drawing more cumulative foreign direct investment from France into India, which I think has been around $11.75 billion, if I'm correct, over the last 2.5 decades. Now, what it means is that more foreign investment, for foreign investment into the Indian markets and sectoral participation will allow for what you would see is in India's strategic interest from an economic standpoint, because we have some serious domestic economic challenges as well at this point, which is more to do with job creation, sectoral participation with greater scope for manufacturing. And I think this partnership is very vital. It could set a benchmark for India's relationship with much of the other European partners.
Yes.
And I think that's why the timing of this engagement is so critical.
All right, Vishnu, I'm going to bring you in and then we'll also go to Aditya, who's standing by. The Defence Acquisition Council has approved the deal for the 114 Rafale fighter planes for the Indian Air Force. This seems to be a sweetener in terms of the nod from the DAC at a time when Macron was coming to India, Vishnu.
Well, let me be very clear about the entire process, because it could still take up to a year for this contract to actually be signed. Now, there's a Defence Acquisition Committee, there is an acceptance of necessity, there is a technical evaluation committee, there is a price negotiating committee, there is a request for proposal, which is the first thing that's going to happen next, where the French are told, please give us a price for this. It's going to happen simultaneously or shortly after. Technical negotiations are carried out where India says, okay, fine, these are the specifications of the aircraft that we want. We then send them an RFP, they reply to that RFP, and then there are these contractual negotiations. Once that is done, there is an agreement which is worked out. It goes to the Cabinet Committee on Security. The reason we are using the word deal on this particular occasion is because in a press release a couple of days back, when the acceptance of necessity was actually granted to the Rafale aircraft, there was only the name of the Rafale which was cleared. This is part of a process called the MRFA process, the multi-role combat aircraft process, multi-role fighter aircraft process. And there were many aircraft competing, the F-18, the F-15, the Sukhoi 35, the Saab Gripen, among others. But basically what they did the other day when they granted the AON was to say that it's only Rafale, or in other words, Dassault, the manufacturer, who we are in talks with. So the assumption now is that this is going to be a deal. It's a question of when. But given the process that I described to you, it could take up to a year. So let's be clear about that. But it does seem clear to me that it will happen.
All right. So another large defense purchase by India, 114 Rafale jets. And as Vishnu was pointing out, the entire process, the entire procedure by which the defense purchase actually takes place. So in about 12 minutes from now, viewers, that timer that you can see at the bottom of your screens is when that big Modi-Macron meeting is going to take place in Mumbai. And while we've been speaking about the defense part of it, Aditya, I want to rope you in on the other aspects of this relationship. There's a very large trade aspect. We've signed an FTA with EU. France is an important economy and they're really going to pave the way for the bilateral trade partnership to pick up. And then there is the Indo-Pacific. France is the only EU country who has an Indo-Pacific play. So to that extent, even the geopolitical alignment between India and France is going to be extremely important, and the commentary that may come out there would also be very, very critical.
Well, that's right. There's a great convergence when it comes to the geopolitics aspects also because of the growing chemistry and strategic partnership between these two countries and the rapport that Modi and Macron really enjoy. So you spoke about the trade. There's 15 million euros of trade that is being talked about and being taken to a new direction, from health to AI to technology and aeronautics and nuclear energy as well. What we'll see later in the day after the big handshake between Modi and Macron will be, of course, how a new assembly line of Airbus is jointly inaugurated virtually by Prime Minister and the President, and of course Rajnath Singh and the French Armed Forces Minister will be in attendance as well. He has a large delegation, several ministers, several CEOs also with him, from Schneider Electric to Safran to Dassault. A lot of companies engaged in growing investment and the trade environment. And let's not forget, this also comes in the backdrop of the mammoth mother of all deals between India and the European Union. So over the next 2 days, we'll see hectic activities both at the public government level and the public-private level with engagements with the CEOs. On the other hand, the big AI summit, which will be jointly inaugurated by the French President and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. As I said, health is an important dynamic between India and France, and for that, the introduction of AI in health will be brought in, and an important agreement and MOU will be signed at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. So there are several critical developments that are being spoken about, from strategic partnership to the trade and people-to-people contact, where the French President today will be trying to project France as a destination for film shoots, investments, and trade partnerships and collaborations between India and France.
All right, I believe Dr. Chelani is back with us. Your audio is back, Dr. Chelani. So the question that Gauri was putting to you at that moment had to do with the the significance of this meeting between Modi and Macron in the larger, broader geopolitical perspective, given the rising global instability that we've been witnessing?
Yes, both France and India are trying to create a multipolar Asia, but more broadly in terms of the global scene. They're trying to create resilient supply chains that are not dependent either on the US or on China. So finding alternatives to the US-China binary is what binds France and India. This visit is important in the sense that it comes exactly a year after Prime Minister Modi's visit to Paris.
Yes.
And one of the major tasks that Modi is seeking to accomplish is to transform the Indo-French relationship from being a buyer-seller equation to one where the two are actual partners collaborating on various issues, including in AI, in innovation, in maritime security. And I think as part of that effort, we are seeing concrete steps. We are seeing new agreements. We are seeing this year being declared the year of innovation by the two countries. We are seeing an industrial roadmap being unveiled as part of technology transfer agreements. We are seeing an emphasis both on reinforcing each country's strategic autonomy. Both countries are now talking about increasing maritime security collaboration. France is the only country with a territorial base in the Indian Ocean, and it plays a role in the Indian Ocean security. And I think that is important for India because the Indian Ocean is India's maritime backyard. But there are also these issues about the French being very eager to sell. Sell is what Macron always likes to emphasize. He wants to show to his home audience that his visit to a country was very successful in terms of the contracts he managed to sign. And I think apart from the Rafale deal, there are also these other, there's a proposed collaboration on small modular reactors, small modular nuclear reactors. And they also see continued momentum on the French project at Jatapur, the Jatapur nuclear power project. So clearly, Macron would like to see some major deals.
Indeed, civil nuclear technology collaboration is and has been a key part of the India-France relations. And last year, when Prime Minister Modi was in France, apart from co-hosting the AI summit, he had also gone to Marseille, which is a very key hub for the India-Middle East economic corridor, and a huge gateway and a very ambitious project by India in terms of building connectivity from India all the way till the European markets. And France, in fact, plays a very important role there. Now, coming back to the AI summit, where India is, of course, now leading the global south. This is going to, Delhi Charter is going to be extremely significant. And also India and France playing a very important role in terms of building AI together. Vishnu, I want to rope you in on just that, on the AI aspect of it. While the bilateral will focus on a whole host of issues, the focus will be on AI. But hold your thought there. I want to play out those visuals of that meeting that is likely to begin any moment soon. And in fact, those are live visuals that we are getting. If we could play that out right there.
I think that's an image we're getting in right now.
That's the image that we're getting right now. But I believe there are more images coming. We can go to that.
Maharashtra Chief Minister with the Prime Minister there. They are expected to be at the Lok Bhavan shortly.
Yes.
And that's where they're going to meet with the French President Macron. But I think Dipanshu also wanted to make a point. I saw him putting his hand up there. Dipanshu, we were talking to Dr. Chalani when you wanted to say something. Also, I just want to extend the point made by Aditya Raj Kaul there, where he talks about the strong personal rapport that you see between the two leaders. How much does this play into, the depth and the speed of bilateral cooperation, Dipanshu?
is the significance of technological transfer and the knowledge know-how which India needs. It has been extremely interdependent on that within services on countries like the US, which makes the India-US trade discussions so more significant. But I think India is looking for beyond the US in terms of partnerships and technological transfer of information beyond defense, of course, as I said. So trade and technological collaboration that we're speaking about, India does not do very well on R&D domestically in terms of its homegrown investment and spending. That has a lot of issues along with the fiscal concerns and the private sector participation in R&D spending. We do a lot more in manufacturing on assembling and not much on value addition in terms of creative innovation possibilities. So I think the tech transfer knowledge systems that you want to promote as part of the partnership is very vital. The other point we just talked about, the personal relationship between the two leaders, I think this is very vital for two reasons, because both leaders, if you see, have joint positions on key international issues that we have been seeing. I mean, whether it's the Russia-Ukraine war or the Gaza conflict, France has condemned Russia's aggression and the ceasefire in Gaza, and India has taken, while a more neutral position, but it has given reiterated commitments to multilateralism and international law, and both have unequivocally condemned civilian suffering and have repeatedly called for dialogue. And this is vital for both leaders. I mean, France, as we know, with Macron's position in its own domestic political setting, requires greater consensus.
Absolutely.
With another leader who is an important leader in the global south. And for Modi as well, which is the EU partnership is very important for India to diversify beyond the US. So that personal relationship between the two leaders, I feel, will go a long way in India's deeper integration within the EU. And I think France would be a key anchor in that embedded relationship.
Fair enough. Those are indeed images that have come in of Prime Minister Modi being welcomed in Mumbai. Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, Deputy Chief Minister Eknath Shinde, that's Prime Minister Modi reaching Mumbai. And in about a very short while from now is when the meeting between the two leaders will take place. It was scheduled for 3:15. Will take place very shortly. Speaking on the camaraderie, Vedika, speaking on the bond, one were to just see the kind of messages that the two leaders put on, X when they said
and
very
very prompt in responding to each other.
Very prompt. And, Macron said that, see you tomorrow, my dear friend, Prime Minister Modi. PM also replied exactly in the same tone where he said the same, that, see you very soon in Mumbai. Then in Delhi, my dear friend, Emmanuel Macron. That gives you a sense of the kind of rapport, the kind of bond that the two leaders have. And, one thing is for certain, when you have the two leaders sharing a certain more than just a working relationship, a lot of things actually get done at the leadership level itself. And I think that is the single biggest factor here. Emmanuel Macron, his fourth visit to India, the first time he'll be in Mumbai. Very shortly is when the meeting will take place between the two leaders. And now we go back to Vishnu Som for more on this. Vishnu, we were speaking about the personal bond between the two leaders and also the context, AI. Prime Minister Modi co-hosted the summit last year. This time around, of course, New Delhi is hosting. Emmanuel Macron is there. In your assessment, how critical and important AI is going to be in the Indo-French relationship?
Well, I would tell you that AI is at the center of our existence as professionals already. And I think going forward, there's a real concern now around the world that the incremental pace at which AI systems are growing, in fact, the systems themselves are improving upon themselves without any human intervention, leads us to a situation where we need to ask some very hard questions. How safe is AI? Is AI in charge or are we in charge? Is there an unfair availability of AI? Is it being hoarded by some companies in some countries and not freely accessible to all? What if AI takes decisions on behalf of humans? Already so many of us rely on AI, and therefore what are the concerns? And perhaps the biggest immediate concern is on jobs, and the sense that, this is what some of the finest AI thinkers and professionals have said in just the last last 1 month or so, that where are the jobs? Will the jobs remain? Will a large number of cognitive jobs at the base level exist? Whether it's journalism, whether it's lawyers, whether it is data crunchers, whether it is software programmers, right? Where do these millions of jobs disappear because the systems might be actually smarter? I mention all of this because these are some of the concerns which will most certainly be brought up over here at the AI summit in Delhi. India has got 3 sutras as far as our belief in AI is concerned, and that then leads on to 7 chakras, and each one is a guiding principle that we want the world to follow, not just the South, but countries around the world, to ensure that AI is safe, it's regulated, it's meaningful, and it helps humans across the world.
Indeed. As we are talking about a cautionary word, there was a word that came in from the Chief Economic Advisor only yesterday, where he said that as far as AI for countries like India is concerned, Vedika, we need to be a little more cautious in our approach, simply because, you have countries in Western Europe, you have developed countries where they have declining demography rates, where if AI replaces jobs, it's okay. But for a country like India, which adds 12 million new people to the workforce, then AI needs to only be a supplicant in terms of adding to productivity, but not taking on jobs, as Vishnu was in fact.
And also the other worry being that the massive youth population percentage that we have here in India, it's a huge workforce potential. But let's go back to Air Marshal Sanjeev Kapoor also, who's been patiently standing by. Air Marshal Kapoor, has France emerged as India's most reliable long-term defense partner, or at least one of them, given that they've consistently supplied India whenever India's reached out for it without any political hesitation?
I have spoken on large forums, and I have spoken many a times that France is the most reliable NATO partner which India has. And I gave you the history from the 50s till now. They have never...
All right, those are live visuals coming in.
Air Marshal Kapoor, I'm going to go back to you in a moment from now. Those are live visuals coming in from the Lok Bhavan in Mumbai. That's the President of France and Prime Minister Narendra Modi shaking hands. A bit of a touch on the shoulder there by Macron while conversing with Prime Minister Modi. Those are live visuals from the Lok Bhavan that we have brought to you. That is an image from last night also of the President. All right, that handshake there. Exchange of words happening, smiles on both faces, a hug there between the two leaders.
Indeed, and I think this is what essentially this relationship comes down to: the camaraderie, the bonding, the rapport that the two leaders share, and both of them speaking very fondly about each other and making references in terms of indicating that there is a certain personal friendship that the two of them have. Of course, they're taking on from exactly where they met the last time. There was also the G7 summit where in France, there was where the two leaders had met. Last year in France, Prime Minister Modi had gone to attend the AI summit. And then from Paris, he had then gone to Marseille, which, as I was saying, was a very important part of and leg of his France visit, the IMEC corridor. This time around, defense is likely to be the key focus. But in my assessment, Vedika, I think so would also be Donald Trump and his trademark style of being unpredictable.
And we should talk about that in a moment from now. I mean, you see this relationship between the two leaders on your screen and the relationship that Modi has shared even with the US president. But things weren't at its best in the last few months when it comes to Donald Trump and India. But I want to go to Aditya Raj Kaul for a moment. Aditya, that signature hug that the two of them share, the handshake, the smiles and the brief conversation.
Well, definitely, this friendship has been spoken about, and, it's a deeply powerful moment also of France and India coming together. In the last decade or so, both these leaders in Europe and in India have been trying to, utilize the friendship to build on the strategic partnership between India and France. So this morning, one of the first things that the French president did in Mumbai was to pay tribute to the victims of the 26/11, which also had two French nationals. There are 166 people who died in that Pakistan-sponsored terror attack in Mumbai. And the first thing that he did was to, in fact, stand with India. And he, in fact, put out a statement on X saying that France stands with India when it comes to terrorism and countering terrorism. So it's a deeply moving and also a powerful statement of intent from France that when it comes to defense, when it comes to national security, and when it comes to strategic affairs, it stands very closely with India. So those visuals of Modi and Macron meeting at the Lok Bhavan in Mumbai, they will have a restricted dialogue between the two, and thereafter we'll expect a joint statement between India and France, where apart from the defense and strategic partnership, we'll see a lot of other aspects also being talked about, people-to-people contact, engagement being increased, trade and commerce being the top of the priorities between these countries as well, because this comes in the backdrop of the India-EU mother of all deals that has shaped the discourse over the last few weeks. That was followed by the India-US intent agreement on trade. But currently staying with a visit, a very significant visit of the French President Macron. He's also accompanied by a large delegation of ministers and CEOs who will be accompanying him after this restricted dialogue in several meetings on innovation, on soft power being taken forward, and the biggest of all, artificial intelligence. So right behind me here is Bharat Mandapam, where both these leaders jointly will inaugurate the AI summit. And for the first time, apart from the safety regulations and other aspects that are being discussed and the big talking points on AI from US to China to the European Union, India is trying to rebuild and talk about the resilience of AI and how to democratize AI in the days ahead. That's the big focus. India is also bringing in the global south in the front and main course narrative when it comes to the artificial intelligence. So clearly, the next 2 days are very much packed, while AI has taken over the entire subject line. But between India and France, a lot is being spoken about and a lot will be declared in the next couple of hours.
All right, that's extremely important what you're telling us, Aditya, in terms of essentially putting out why this visit is so critical, so crucial, both for India and France. For viewers tuning in right now, what you see on your screens are visuals coming in from Lok Bhavan, which is the governor's office, where you see the meeting taking place between French President Emmanuel Macron, who's on his 4th visit to India, meeting Prime Minister Modi. There will be an exchange of MOUs that will take place, and press statement will also be issued in terms of the bilateral engagements that the two sides will have. There's a very large delegation of CEOs that have accompanied President Macron, and the focus will be on defense, trade, geopolitical aspects, convergence on a whole host of geopolitical priorities for both India and France. And as you can see, at the cost of repeating ourselves, Vedika, body language that you can see here on our screens right now, those visuals that are coming in, essentially tell the story, the body language of Prime Minister Modi and President Macron when they're greeting each other ahead of those restricted level trade talks.
Absolutely. You can see the bonhomie, the little banter that's on as well, Gauri, between the two leaders. But they're going to get down to business now. And that should last for about 45 minutes to an hour or maybe a bit longer. And after which we're expecting joint statements on this bilateral meeting. A key one. Dr. Chelani, if I can come back to you. Let's just talk about how both India and France have strong interests in the Indo-Pacific region. What does this really mean when it comes to this partnership in balancing China's growing assertiveness?
It's a good question. France is the only EU power with a permanent military presence and sovereign territories in the Indian Ocean.
Yes.
So it feels as if it feels as if it's a resident power in the Indo-Pacific. Both France and India emphasize strategic autonomy, and France traditionally has focused on maritime security. It has had a strong navy, and the focus on maritime security between India and France naturally fits with French military doctrine. And Macron's visit reinforces the two countries' efforts to jointly, to have joint naval patrols and satellite surveillance cooperation. So in that respect too, the Indo-Pacific will serve as an anchor for the two countries. But I think the more important aspect is in the defense field.
Yeah.
Modi is trying to usher in a new era in defense cooperation with France by going beyond buying, because so far the relationship has been one where France has been selling big ticket items to India. So while France remains a top arms supplier to India, the focus is now sought to be shifted to co-development and make in India. For example, the procurement of 114 additional Rafale jets, a significant portion of them, 96 units, are to be made within India with many Indian components. I think between 50 to 60% of the components are likely to be manufactured in India itself. But there's also the Indian interest, and I think possible deals are likely. France is willing to sell technologies, but defense technology, especially technology for developing, for manufacturing jet engines.
Right.
The Americans don't want to sell that technology to India, but the French are willing.
That's important,
also,
sir.
the French are willing to transfer, that is, sell technology for Scorpion-class submarines. So that again is a possible deal, but again that will only emphasize the French interest in selling. One other thing that we have to keep in mind that Macron back home is not exactly a popular leader, right?
There's enough and more French political turmoil that is going on. You're right
exactly.
about hitting the
so he's trying to salvage his image and reputation at home by focusing on foreign policy, on visits abroad, on bringing home major contracts.
Right.
And I think in that broader sense, his visit to India fits with that pattern, his recent focus on going overseas and returning home with important contracts.
All right, sir. I'm gonna touch upon that one very important aspect, which is Atmanirbharta with regard to defense, something that gets a huge push with the agreements that will be signed between India and France this time around. And as Dr. Chilani was mentioning, that indigenous defense manufacturing, Atmanirbharta, is going to get a huge push. Marshal Kapoor, let me bring you in on just that aspect of it. You know, in terms of joint manufacturing, the facilities that will be opened up, inaugurated by both the leaders, and then, of course, this deal as well with regard to the Rafales that will be signed. Marshal Kapoor, in your assessment, how significant will those be for ushering in Atmanirbharta for India with regard to defense?
Important companies manufacture the components for Rafale. The Dassault, the airframes is one. The other company is Safran, which is manufacturing the engines, which has already set up an MRO here in Hyderabad. The Prime Minister inaugurated that facility. It's maintenance, repair, and overall setup. And this is where the likelihood of engine manufacturing, if the technology is transferred, may take place. Like I covered, there are another company which is called Thales. So that Thales is manufacturing avionics and electronic warfare components. They have also shown interest for joint ventures with India. And as you would be aware, the three private companies of India, that is Tata Aerospace, L&T, and Bharat Forge, have been shortlisted by the government along with ADA to manufacture 5 prototype of 5th generation fighters. So these three private Indian companies would be looking for collaborations to manufacture our own aeroplanes. So the technology which the French bring in, and not only in the aeroplanes, it comes with the weapons. So we need the precision guided weapons, be it Spice, be it Scalp, be it Meteors. All these weapons also India would look to take, because all of them did exceptionally well during Operation Sindoor.
Right.
And we would like to manufacture those in India.
All right. Vishnu, before we take a break, a quick word from you. That bilateral meeting underway now. We've seen the handshake, we've seen the hug, we've seen the smile. Now it's down to business. Of course, a strategic partnership is of absolute priority here. But what could we expect in terms of the joint statement in a couple of hours from now?
If I knew what that joint statement were to have, then I should be.
For a moment, I knew you'd start with that, Vishnu. But yeah, go ahead.
Prime Minister of one of the two nations. But no, Aditya also. Aditya would like to be a fly on that wall right now.
We all would want to be a fly on that wall inside the Lok Bhavan right now.
Look, the way. So the way it actually works, and Aditya, bear me out on this, is that it's all more or less prepared. You don't have the two leaders meet unless it's more or less a done deal. Now that changes sometimes if there are negotiations on a pressing deal which is going down right to the 11th hour, or it needs the personal go ahead of one of the leaders or both of the leaders. In this particular case, I don't see any area which has reached that. There were certain assurances which perhaps the French defense industry would have been looking at when it came to India's seriousness on the Rafale. We've certainly done that, but as I mentioned, actually signing on to that contract will take up to a year, 6 months to a year. But there is an impetus. The defense budget has gone ahead. I expect the India-France statement to be fairly generic, expanding on areas of common concern, reinforcing democratic values, focusing on AI, focusing on the nature of the strategic partnership and indeed of the defense partnership as well. There is one very important defense deal which we've not spoken about with France. That is for the Hammer weapon system.
Yes.
It's sort of a hybrid missile cum bomb. It's being acquired. It's going to be made in India by Bharat Electronics Limited. It is a primary weapon, as it is, of the Rafale aircraft. So I would be interested to see if there is any mention of that.
Absolutely. I'm going to slip into a very short break. Viewers, our rolling coverage of the big story continues. Gentlemen, thank you so much.